a professional licensed educator. And today we will know who our panelists are briefly, and we will talk about deploying AI-driven learning solutions. The English is very big. AI-driven learning solutions in underprivileged areas. We talk about out-of-school children. There's a statistic called NEET, not in education, employment, or training. Plenty of people. What roles do community-based initiatives have in bringing learning closer? Just like somebody was bringing governance closer to our doorsteps, we want to bring learning closer to your doorsteps. And what is artificial intelligence, and how can we leverage it to make quality education more accessible? Charlie, these are very powerful terms. I want to welcome my guests. Good morning, people.
Good morning.
The way I'm happy, you people are just relaxed, but you haven't eaten this morning. Charlie, Ghana is moving forward. You have to be sharp. Good morning. Is it Joanna? Good morning.
Good morning, Bernard.
You're a professional licensed educator.
Of course. Yes.
Wonderful. We'll talk about that. My AI man is in the person of Richard.
Yes.
So your company is called what?
Metaschool AI.
Metaschool AI. Metaschool AI. Wow, I like it. And Anna, you are a skilled planning, development, and management of education professional. Good morning.
Good morning, Bernard.
Wonderful. So let me start with Joanna. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you do. Sounds like an interesting job. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Bernard, for the opportunity.
Good.
My journey has been a bit of, or let's say, a blend of education, that is teaching, doing digital marketing,
okay,
doing social media management, and doing photography as well.
Just say you're a hustler. A hustler in the technology space. Teaching and learning, social media marketing. I see. How long have you been doing all of these things?
Early 3 years.
I see.
Yeah.
And now you're settled as what? You are a professional licensed educator.
Yeah.
Meaning what? You teach people or you start schools? What does that mean?
I teach people.
You teach people.
Yeah.
What do you teach them?
Computing.
Okay. So you can teach IT, computer science, and all those things.
Exactly.
Wonderful. And do you have your own school or you teach in public schools?
I teach in public schools.
Teach in public schools. Wonderful. Anna, tell me a bit about yourself. What do you do?
I'm an entrepreneur.
Okay.
The founder of MEST. It's an Afro-centric clothing and accessory brand.
Okay.
That promotes African culture.
Okay.
Through contemporary designs.
Hey.
I'm also an educator. Been a teacher for secondary school, running the research curriculum.
Okay.
I've also been a teaching assistant at Chess University.
Hey. Yeah, not easy.
I've done a couple of voluntary works as well as a mentor and a coach, guiding students to find their path in school and manage both their personal life and then their social life.
So all of you are doing many things. You do all kinds of things and then you also teach.
Yeah, so Bernard, I actually add that currently I'm the social media manager of Ghana Society for Education Technology.
My God. Wow. And you do your own fashion stuff and you're also an educator.
Yeah, and I've worked on a project just recently, HSE e-learning project.
Okay.
That is focused on creating an e-learning platform to support students. So mostly people that come into HSE students come from different backgrounds.
Okay.
And from feedback from alumni and all that, I have my own experience settling in HSE. So there's this first year experience program that started and for 2 years, and then they got funding from the Mastercard Foundation to create an e-learning platform that content is being put in on there. So
you are both educators in addition to everything else you do. Let me come to Richard and then we'll set the discussion. Richard, so you are the CEO of Metaschool. Tell me a bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I'm CEO of Metaschool.
Okay.
And what we do is that we use AI solutions to help students learn.
Okay.
Specifically help them prepare for the BEC and OASI examinations.
Yeah. That's how long have you been doing this?
For the past 4 years.
For the past 4 years. So when you say AI solutions for BEC and SSC, what do you mean by AI solutions?
So what we are saying is let me just give you a typical example. So let's say ChatGPT. A student will just ask ChatGPT, maybe I have a solution, a problem in board mass. ChatGPT will just solve it for you.
Okay.
What we've been able to build is an AI that collaborates with the students to arrive at an answer.
Okay.
So you put the question to the AI. The AI just doesn't give you the answer. It will ask you, okay, let's take it one step at a time. 1 + 1, what is it? Then the student will answer 2.
Okay.
Then the AI will say, oh, that's good. Let's go to the next step.
Okay.
You have to add this to this. And if the student gets it wrong, the AI corrects the student. So it's a collaborative learning.
Instead of just copying the answer from the AI.
Yeah.
I see. And this is a local AI you are developing?
It's a local solution. It's amazing. We've even been able to build a model. It's a multimodal retrieval system whereby you can watch a video, and if the student doesn't understand something in the video, just talk to the video. I don't understand this. What did the teacher say here? And the AI will pick up from where the teacher was teaching in the video. It's amazing. Yeah, we've been able to build all this from Ghana.
So all of you are educators. Now, I think let me state my problem. The truth is that a lot of people who are not in traditional schools, so they don't get access to the kinds of things you do directly. So, for example, you teach in a school. I'm sure you've taught in a school before. A lot of the people who do not get proper education are not even in a good school, or even if they're in school, they don't get to stay in school for long. And there's also geographical differences, gaps in schooling. So there are some places where schooling is episodic. If there's planting season, kids don't even get to go to school. And there are people who cannot afford school for whatever reason. So these are the people we are trying to discuss how we can use technology to reach them. Okay. Now, before we get into that, have you worked in any underserved community before? Have you tried to speak to in your job? Because it seems as if you work in different contexts, right? Have you had to deal with people who are not in a traditional school setting or who are just living in an underserved community? If you have, tell me how that experience was and give me some insights into what you learned in that process. Who wants to go first?
Okay, so
yes.
I think one thing about Meta School is that we mostly go to the underserved communities.
Okay.
We have most of our customers coming from the Volta region and the Northern region. And because of that, we have to actually do a lot of, we call it outreach. So we go to the schools, and some of the schools you get there, the reality on the ground is like they are so many years away from using technology to enhance their teaching and learning. And mostly it's because of costs, it's because of infrastructure, and also the availability of quality educators. And what we are seeing is that AI really gives us the opportunity to be able to leverage its power to reach the students.
Okay.
So let's take something like costs or infrastructure. Putting facilities in these communities is very, very expensive because right now, maybe the government does not have the resources to put up maybe a school over there. But with AI, we can give these students access to maybe tablets, whereby we can make the schools a cloud-based school.
Okay.
So it's about thinking.
But we have internet connectivity.
Yeah. So that's another challenge. So because we've been to facilitate communities, you talk to the student, we don't have 3G, we can't even watch a video. So how does such a student get access to use the technology that you have given him to learn? So it's now challenges us to now come up with solutions such like on-device learning. Such that the device that we are giving to these students has the content preloaded on it, so it doesn't necessarily need internet connectivity. And in instances whereby they need to submit maybe an assignment, it just goes through SMS because SMS still works over there.
So you are able to produce devices that can work in different contexts, including internet-less contexts. Exactly. Joanna, let's talk about some of the key barriers preventing marginalized communities from accessing education and how we can address them effectively.
Okay, thank you very much, Bernard. As usual, I am an educator, and definitely I would have to explain 2 keywords in the whole topic we are coming to discuss. Of which I will talk about learning and talk about marginalized.
Okay.
So we talk about what is learning. We say learning is the process of acquiring knowledge. We acquire knowledge, we acquire skills, competencies. We do that through experience, we do that through teaching, and we do that through just learning as well. In all that, there should be a relatively change in behavior of the person. That is where we see that learning has taken place. We have a lot of people explaining learning from different perspectives, or let's say theology. We have the B.F. Skinner, we have the James Piaget, all talking about learning being constructive, cognitive, behavior, and then social learning. Because people learn by observation, people learn by learning, people learn by taking part in whatever they do. So these are some of the things we need to look at in the learning aspect. We come to marginalization. How are people marginalized? Marginalization occurs when people are treated insignificant, or let's say people are seen unimportant in an aspect. And so with this marginalization group, we will talk of two main people or two main groups. Those are the disabilities and then the able bodies. The disability has to do with the disabilities we know, the physical, the sensory, the intellectual, and then let's say the learning disabilities. These people are in such a way have fallen short in some aspects. We talk about the able-bodied disabilities. These people are not disabled, but then yet they are marginalized. Yes. So we have the poverty, we have the, what do you call it?
Your access to
gender.
Information. Gender is also part.
We have economic disability or socio-economic status. We have geographical isolation. All these things are people, when they find themselves in these places, are marginalized or don't get particular aspect to things. So we say that learning is what the person wants to do and not what you want them to do. Yes. So you can take learning to them, but it's time the person has it in mind that, yes, I want to learn and I have to do it. And so coming back to the question you asked, I think economic constraint is one. Where I think that government, or let's say other NGOs or other stakeholders and education partners should try their best to give students scholarships, especially those in need. We talk of educational programs or community-based programs. Let's try taking these programs to them in their communities to actually value the sense of education and learning. We have, I would talk of the last one, which is teacher education, and then shortage of teachers. I think teachers who are posted in rural areas could be given incentives to motivate them to go, because many a times we see teachers being posted to those places, and because they lack internet, they lack certain things, they won't go. They rather find other means to stay at where they will be comfortable.
That's a very comprehensive answer to a very short question. I notice you prefer using learning to the word education, which I think is fine. You've identified economic, social, and gender and disability barriers, which you believe have marginalized people, and you've suggested some solutions. I'll come back to you to explore those, but let me just announce that this is Edtech Monday, and it's a partnership between the MasterCard Foundation with MEST Africa, with CTFM Breakfast Show, the last Monday of every month, bringing you a discussion about education. Now, today we're talking about using AI and other technologies to help out of school learners, bringing learning to marginalized communities. And so my guests, educator, I also have Richard Dodu, who is the CEO and lead researcher for Meta School AI, and Ananami, who's a skilled planning, development, and management of education professional. We are trying to still feel our way around the topic to understand this whole marginalization issue and what effective learning will be in those contexts. So Anna, let me just get your take on we're talking about people who are out of school as part of the marginalized. How do you think our education system can track them better for the purposes of bringing them back into the formal system?
I think that we can begin with gathering educational data on the students. When we look at schools, admission forms, it's more generic, like it treats everyone the same. But then you have to understand the needs of the students that are out of school and are coming back to school. And so I believe that schools should be focused on gathering data from their admissions so that they can better understand the needs of these students. From experience teaching students, both at the senior high level or secondary level and the university, I realized that most people come in not prepared. So they're just coming to the university especially, and they don't really have any experiences, especially when they have to be pursuing a different curriculum. I have my own experience at Edtech University. I came from the GES system and now have to, be integrated into the formal system, which was like different. So things like reflection, I didn't have that. So we did a lot of reflective activities. And anytime I wrote my reflections, I got a lower mark. I kept improving, getting feedback and improving, but it took time for me to be able to get my feet when it came to, reading an article and sharing your own perspective on it, right? So I believe that from the admission, schools should be able to gather data on these students and then tailor the teaching and learning activities. I'm more concerned, right? More of the experiences. How do you create experiences for these students to have a meaningful learning in the institutions that they find themselves? I'm proud to say that Edtech University is doing that. The project I mentioned that I worked on, we considered different learning, different background of students. We even considered people coming from places that they don't have electricity. So you take a student from there and then you give them a laptop. How do they proceed from there? So the e-learning at Edtech now is helping such students to have certain competencies. So the courses will give them certain competencies before they start their university programs that they've come to pursue. So before they start, they already have, hands-on of using problem-solving skills to solve problems in their communities and all that. And so when such a student find themselves in the classroom and they're given an assignment, they are able to contribute and become better of themselves.
And are you talking about university students, or you're talking about basic or secondary in this context?
So I was using the university as an example. The secondary school I have taught, and one thing I realized is that although this student, so it's an international school, all right, but some of the students came from different systems, and so I had to constantly pay attention to certain. I had a student called Mandea. She's really good, but then she couldn't express herself, and so bringing whatever you are teaching in her context was really helpful for her. So sometimes I have to take her out of class, like after class, have sessions with her privately, explain certain things to her. And I like flipping the classroom because I feel giving materials to students to prepare to come and teach their colleagues, they feel, okay, so this is an opportunity for me to show how best I am in the class. And because they are also teaching or engaging with their colleagues, it's easier for them to not feel judged as compared to you, the teacher, teaching and asking them questions.
Anybody wants to add anything to that before I get into my next point? So she sent experiences around how she's helped to integrate people back into the system. You were talking about some of the tools you use in your communities, because I was saying that the way we see marginalization from a description, there's economic marginalization, there's even geographical marginalization, there's gender, and then there's also learning, as she said. Do your tools have solutions to all of these?
But we don't necessarily have solutions to everything, but what we can see is that AI gives us the opportunity to leapfrog our problems. Yes.
Explain.
So what I was trying to explain earlier on was building our schools in the cloud. Today, I think because of the challenges that we are facing as a country, to be very challenging for the government to put up another 1,000 schools to be able to get all students back in the classroom. What I'm looking at is a new way of handling this problem. Can we build our schools in the cloud? What does it mean by building schools in the cloud? So let's look at a typical problem that we are facing as Ghanaians. Students go to school, per the double trap system, they spend 3 months in school, then they spend 2 months at home. Now, what we can do is that, can we now change this model and call it 3 months on campus and 2 months distance learning. So within the 3 months on campus, they go to campus, they do whatever they are doing. They have their face-to-face teacher. But when it's time for them to vacate, we don't call it vacation, we call it distance learning.
Right.
So they go home,
but they are still learning.
They are still learning. I have access to my tablet. So that's where another policy comes in. The free, is it the one student, one tablet policy?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are really wasting this policy. We can use this policy to leapfrog our education because the problems will always be there. But for the first time, we have all the tools to be able to scale the problems that we are facing as a country. So the students go to back home. Now, all the video content that they have to take, everything is right on the device. They can still continue learning. When they have an assignment, they can just submit the assignment, the AI grades them.
How would they be supervised? Do you propose that the teacher who's teaching the on-site students make some time with these off-site guys, or you think you can build in the supervision and the tracking into the system?
Yes, the supervision and tracking is based onto the system, but of course there will be a team of people that will be managing the distance learning department.
Okay,
we can really utilize
so that instead of saying they are home, because I went somewhere and I met some guy who says he had gone to school, he had gone before the election, then he came home middle of February, and he says he's going back to school in May. And I was like, why? And this is a Form 2 boy in, I think, one of the, it's like, I'm going back to school in May. Meanwhile, he hadn't been in school for almost even 2 months. He went, I think, a week after the election was when he went to school. And then he came home first week of February or so, or second week of February. Then he says he's going to be, actually, first week of February. Then he says he's home till May.
It's a huge problem.
Now, you're saying that this system you're proposing can track the students' performance. You need definitely somebody to manage it, but it will save a lot of time for the people who are on campus.
Exactly.
And you're saying this is so you can have devices which are both internet and non-internet based.
Yes.
That's going to work. Wow. I like this idea. I really like this idea. Caleb, what do you think? It's a very, very nice idea.
But it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And even for a lot of urban poor persons, because we are thinking marginalization, very rural areas, but a lot of very urban poor areas in cities that will also benefit.
Because I know some parents are complaining about needing to pay more for classes,
extra classes
for the 3 months. So this February, March, April that the guy is home, and May, they are looking, and some of the money is in thousands.
And we save costs. So over here, AI has saved on infrastructure, and it saves on cost too, because we don't need a parent don't need to hire those extra teachers. The student is still fully engaged, and you will be graded just like.
Are you actually using this? Because my worry as a parent is that when my boys get the tablets, they wander into strange corners. So we always have parents. It's tough, you know, because today they are doing an assignment, before you know they are playing a football game. Then he says, I'm coding. So how did you start coding? No, I'm not finished you haven't finished your homework, you already coded. No, the homework, like, it's so difficult. Are you able to work checks into the system to ascertain that they are using the machine or the device for the right thing, and that they are working within the bands allowed? So maybe it's a 15-year-old, he's in SS2, and he's been given this tablet thing to do his math and science. How are we going to be sure that he's not browsing, watching other things?
So in terms of the devices that are given by government, we can just have a policy that this device cannot be used for any other thing, just by unless educational content. So before we give the device to the students, it has been pre-configured. When you go to the Play Store, you will not see any app other than educational content, and you can't install an app from any other source. So that automatically, we know that all the devices that we are going to give to the students will be used for the purpose that we want it to be used for. Secondly, devices may be procured by parents. You can just put parental controls on the devices. And
it's easier said than done, trust me.
Oh, no.
My brother, I'm talking about experience. You know, people just say, look, you put parental control on a device, then maybe you get an email from the system saying maybe your son wants to access this. So you have to have the presence of mind to check whether what he's trying to do is even useful or not. Because you also don't want to just leave the tablet and let it be regulated by a machine. You want to be interactive. So whilst I understand AI, I feel like if the parent or the guardian is not cooperative, it's not a solution on its own. Do you understand? Because you know your child, and the machine can only do as much. if you don't have a human interface. So I just want to put to you that your AI solution, notwithstanding, cannot work without the human being.
Yeah. So there's
you agree with me, right?
Sure.
The whole essence is that with AI is that if you don't have the human in the loop, automatically it's useless. Let's bear in mind that AI is supposed to serve us, not the other way around. So you will still need a human in the loop to be able to foresee certain things. There are certain times we mostly do not allow the AI to take certain decisions because we believe that because of ethical bounds or whatever. So we still need a human in the loop to be able to guide.
Let me come to Joanna. I know you're interested in this angle. Let me take a comment on it.
Let me add something to what my brother is saying. So I think, as I earlier said, learning is what the person wants to do, not you want what you want what should be done. No, the person feels like I have to do this, and that is what I want to do.
What are you saying? You have a mass. They'll give you a mass assignment.
So that is what my brother
and
said.
He's not doing that. He wants to play a football game. And you are saying learning is what he wants to do. How?
So we said that unless devices are configured, if not, they will go. Whatever you do, they will go. Yes,
but I think you are saying that learning is what
you feel like learning.
I gave the guy a computer yesterday. He's supposed to do an assignment. They have maths week. So they say to do an assignment on a mathematician that you admire.
Okay.
Write a paper on it.
Okay.
You give this device to the guys, typing. Before you know, you are here.
FIFA.
There's a football game. Then they say no, they didn't give. They say he's just trying to check something. He's playing a football game.
So that is it.
So he's learning.
No, he's not learning.
Okay.
He's not learning. But then it's a point. I'm coming from a point where we have to actually psych them in such a way that learning is important, and then there is time for learning and there's time for everything. When it's time for learning, we are learning. When it's time that we have to do other things, we give the opportunity to do that. Secondly, we are talking about.
You want to add something? Yes, I'll come back to you. Add something.
So for me, I come from the experience, point of view. So you have to consider the experience of the different students that you are targeting. There are students that cannot sit for long hours, right? So you have to put breaks in between. Exactly. So if you give them the math assignments, you should break it down, right? So a student who cannot sit for like more than 30 minutes would have a break. So you can put a nice break and take a walk, for 7 minutes and come back. So whatever they will have to do, they will go and do it and come back, right? And then summarizing, not writing like a lot, summarizing and being specific as well. Summarizing the activity and then being specific and not giving them like too many activities at once. So you can break it down into different phases, different assignments, and then making the activities game-based. So instead of just sitting down reading, how do you call it? Like Googling and reading a lot of articles, you can make it game-based.
Am I the one making it to the school? The school give the business assignment, make it do. We say no go do. I will say.
So I'm referring to the
school. Then the problem is the school, not with me. Let me come back to. Let me come back to.
So
your point. Thank you.
The second point has to do with the devices which we load content to for offline learning, where even if there are no internet connectivity in a particular area, because there is a device which has content and could be used offline, students can rely on that. I would touch deeply on we being able to train teachers very well to be able to do what is needed in the classroom.
Okay.
Because if teachers are not trained very well to handle tech stuff in the classroom, they'll go to class. We go back to the roots learning. We talk plenty, but yet still nothing goes inside because we are not too comfortable about coming to class, writing on the board. These current children now we say Gen Zs. They don't like sitting for long. They don't like hearing you talk for long. So let's have them interaction. Let's have them do something. So at GSET, for instance, we do teacher meetups, we do teacher forums. So in doing that, we actually help educators to know how best they can use technology in classroom.
So the problem starts with the teacher and his approach.
Exactly.
So you mean teachers need to be retrained in using technology in the classroom in a more interactive, engaging way?
Exactly.
That's where the problem begins.
Exactly.
All right, let me stay with you, Joanna. How can we ensure that the content that we put on these materials is culturally relevant and accessible to diverse marginalized groups? Charlie, some of your questions are hard, though. Like social studies. Charlie, what is this?
Okay, so I think in doing that, we have to make sure that people who are using this educational content or these educational materials, you seek for their views or their advice in doing the education policy or drafting the educational policies, without asking for their views, without asking for their capacity in whatever they do. You put down the educational policy, but yes, though, it won't have its impact on the children.
So user-generated insights to inform the content. So you try stuff out. You don't just put the thing there and say you're going to use it.
Exactly.
All right. What kind of collaboration do you think we need to get this done? So you've spoken about parents in the past. I think I suggested that parents need to get involved. Maybe let me come to you, Richard. Talk to me about what kind of collaboration is needed for effective learning in marginalized communities and everywhere else generally, right? Which other people can partner, and what can we do even across schools and stuff? Just talk to me a bit about that.
Yeah, so I think I will start with this platform. It's been amazing meeting other like-minded Edtech partners to really share ideas. We really need this sort of collaboration partnership. The MEST Edtech Mastercard program is very, I've been able to meet some very good Edtech partners where we shared very good ideas and we deliberate, and sometimes the problems they're facing is a problem I've solved in my startup, and we share ideas. Yeah. And secondly, too, we need a lot of collaboration with traditional authorities. It's very important, especially in the marginalized communities. I've been to communities whereby we want to talk to a school. We believe we're going to a school, and the school was actually a church.
Wow.
Yeah, the school is in a church. So during the day or when the church is not in session, the school is in session. And when the school is not in session, the church is in session. So this is the sort of collaboration that we need. And in other communities, it's the other way around, whereby the church is in the school when the school is not in session. So we really need this sort of collaboration to be able to see Edtech develop either learning, not necessarily just Edtech, but really getting all the students back in the classroom.
So that's a good example. So between church, what about community-based collaborations? Look, for example, there are areas with lots of schools. When you drive to the Kaswai area, there are lots of private schools there. I wonder if they do anything together. A lot of private schools seem to want to think that they have everything in their school without comparing. They don't even do competition with other schools. I think there's need for a bit more community-based initiatives, especially if, for example, you know that in a specific community, they have peculiar challenges. So, for example, you go to parts of the central region and there's a specific problem in fishing communities. You go to another part of the northern region, there's a specific problem with people who are maybe having to move long distances to school. There should be community-based collaboration taking cognizance of local problems, but I don't seem to see a lot of that happening in our schools.
Yeah, that's very true. Mostly, most of the schools that we visit, for the public schools, at least it's open. Once you have your permission from GES, it's quite very easy to walk in there to meet the students, show them the demo of whatever we are working on. They get and choose and sign up onto our services. Mostly in the private schools, everyone is more like in our own corner. There is no communication between other schools, and there's no collaboration. And even those days, we used to have intercore. You can see that.
And these days, it's very reduced. Caleb, I know you built your craft as a journalist, a public speaker, generally because of your inter-school activities. So debaters club, inter-schools programs. And I feel like these days, because of the way we load the kids in one school, they don't get to do anything. And it's almost like, even in the churches as well. When I was young, in Medina Queen of Peace Catholic Church, every Easter we used to do things with all the churches in Medina. These days, most churches do things alone. All right. Now, again, in schools, they do their own inter-houses competition. They do their own quiz. They hardly go out. So and learning is not classroom. Do you understand? It's like we have de-emphasized the interactive nature of even comparing our experience. When I was in university primary school, we used to do competitions against Ghana Atomic Energy, against Achimota Primary School. Yeah. There was always that way of comparing our lives. These days, I don't really see that. I don't know whether in your schools you do this, but I think it's a big problem.
Okay, so Bernard, I am coming from a fishing community, okay?
Okay.
And this fishing community, we are at a point where even if there are classes going on, learning going on, and they have to go to the sea, or let's say, they won't even come for them to even leave.
Wow.
Yeah. So the question is, how then do we even put them back to the classroom? How do we ensure that they actually consistent in the classroom?
But do they need to be in the classroom? Let me push the question. Does learning have to take place in a structured setting?
No, not really. Not on any time, because as I earlier explained how learning takes place, we learn by observation. We learn by experience. So it is not about coming to classroom, teacher standing there to teach and all that. No, people find a whole lot of different ways in learning.
Yeah.
So I think it shouldn't be a structured format like that.
Although I know that in some communities, school and classroom is a shelter. People don't have access to food until they go to school. A lot of people, it's when they are in school that they are away from predators, that they are away from danger. So, for example, when girls are in school, it's much safer than when they are just roaming around the community. So, whilst I appreciate that learning takes everywhere, I also think that formal educational institutions have their role, where between 8 o'clock and 4 p.m., somebody's accountable for them within a space. And otherwise, there'll be someone. So we need to have that balance, right? Let's still continue with the chat. We're having a chat around addressing out of school challenges, bringing learning to marginalized communities. My guests have tried to explain what marginalization is. Some of the marginalization is in terms of social status, geographical marginalization, gender, and ability status marginalization as well. And they are using their own work in various communities to talk about how we can use technology generally and AI in particular to handle this issue. You can send us your comments on our WhatsApp number 054-998-6996. Are you a teacher listening to us? What strategies can you share with us on helping underserved communities or marginalized people to get learning? How do you innovate to support the less endowed in your classroom settings? What do you do for people who are behind? So maybe you are in a school where there are clearly students who are far behind based on where they've come from. Maybe you're an SSS and some have come from communities where they've never seen a computer and yet they're supposed to do computing. How do you help them bridge the gap? These are some of the questions we are trying to grapple with. Number 3, what can we do as teachers to help each other? Because Joanna has said a lot of the problem in our classrooms is because the teachers themselves don't know how to use technology to teach. They're not interactive enough. They are very boring. Teaching Gen Z is not the same as teaching millennials, right? So my kids always tell you, I'm bored. Every 2 minutes, I'm bored. You know, it's like, how can you be bored? There's all these things. I'm bored. Like, what do you want me to do for you? You know, so it's a very tough situation. And I think the conversation has come back to the same point of we have to be innovative. We have to be flexible. But let's talk about ethics, Richard. Let's talk about ethics. Now, we're talking about AI, technology. What ethical considerations should we consider when we are deploying these AI-driven, sophisticated things, Mr. Richard Dodu?
Yeah, so I think the major part is bias. Yeah, the biggest challenge that we are seeing in our work is bias, because mostly the models that we mostly use a foundation model. So a foundation model is like maybe you're referencing from someone's work. And what happens is that they've trained the AI models on their content. It's mostly comes from the West. Now we are also seeing some coming from the East too, so it's good. But they based their knowledge based on their content. So if you just pick that and bring that to the Ghanaian classroom, you realize that it's a major challenge. It's bad. So mostly what we do is that you have to pre-train that model in the Ghanaian context so that it understands teaching and learning in the Ghanaian context.
Let me actually read a text message that has come for you to develop. So this is from an educator I know, Reverend Dr. Avotri. He says, "Greetings, Bernard and team. Can this AI education group urgently develop a device that can help our children to read and speak Ghanaian languages? My 2-year-old granddaughter is learning to talk. In school, she's learning English. At home, the parents got her a tablet which activates learning in English. So she's speaking English language faster than any local language. We urgently need something that can facilitate learning in our local languages. We should not think that learning is only in English." Dr. Avote, I agree with this so much. I want you to comment on this because, in fact, some of our kids are even speaking like cartoons. They are speaking like cartoons. No, I'm serious. Like Dora and these things they've been watching on Paw Patrol, they are speaking like those things. And I'm wondering, I don't talk like that. So why are you talking like this? Can your AI models speak local language ever? Tree, Zima, Fancy.
So what we've done is that we don't have the base models for local languages. What we've done is that we've partnered with another company, and they have a very popular app on the App Store called Abena AI.
Abena AI.
Yeah, we talks about so we are able to collaborate with them to build base models that will teach our students how to speak Chi, and I think currently we support Chi, Ga, then Ewe. Those are the 3 main languages that we support.
It's Ewe. Since the language is Ewe. Say Ewe. No, Ewe. No, Ewe. It's so much today.
It is okro.
I'm not getting it.
I would volunteer my voice for the model. So you're saying that a model can be trained to speak a language?
It's actually available assistance today.
Really?
Yeah, on the Play Store. I think so many downloads, and it's one of the high popular apps on the Play Store assistance. It's called Abna AI. You can check it out.
And it does Ga or Chi.
It does Chi, Ga,
and Ewe.
And we are adding Awuza to it.
Right.
Yes, to make sure that our content is fully localized.
So this for all content?
Yeah, this for all content.
Problem is a lot of us think in English. So even in adding and subtracting, it's going to be very tough. But I agree with you. This has to happen.
Yeah.
I wanted to just come to Anna. Any thoughts on this? Because you've worked in the higher, so you are more with university students or secondary university. Secondary university. Any thoughts on technology and how it can be used, and any thoughts on what they've said so far?
Yeah. With technology, I think it's not the role of the parents alone. I mean, if you have to do with kids at home, but then I think it's a collaboration between the institutions and the parents to see how best. As if a school is deciding on what the student should use, for instance, and it doesn't work for the parent, then there should be an issue. So I think there has to be that collaboration to discuss what works best.
Okay, let me share an experience. So I interviewed a lady from what's the name of this lady? Dr. Peby's Angele Peby, who has this reading system on tablets. So they were encouraging kids to read, and kids were reading a lot, but they were using tablets. All right. Now my challenge is I have a lot of physical books that I want the children to read. All right. So now the tablet doesn't have all the books because of copyright reasons. So, but there are some tablets on the book. But I feel like kids should also read and mark and write. But because of that tablet thing, they don't really want to hold the book to read. And the problem is that when they are holding the tablet, they can't always know what they are doing. Okay, so whilst in a way that the books they put on this device help the kids to read much faster, I also feel like they need to know how to read a normal book and use a highlighter to mark and things. But I think that skill is a dying skill. And if we don't take care, in the next 30 years, people may not even read books, or they may read books in a different form. Should I be worried about that? Or is just I'm overthinking it? I'm talking to Joanna now.
Okay, Bernard, I think in both ways, it's both ways. You shouldn't worry. At the same time, you should worry. Okay, so you shouldn't worry because I think we are at a point in time or a point in life where we are shifting from the traditional aspect. So we are shifting from rereading and then marking with a marker or something, moving to the AI and then doing things on tech stuff, or let's say on tablet and all that. So I think in both ways, children or learners should be educated in both ways. So that at a point wherever they find themselves, if it's in a traditional setting, they are comfortable. If it's in the other aspect too, they are comfortable.
All right, let me read another comment. Bernard, our kids go to school at 6:30 a.m. and close at 3:45 p.m. Who is watching, and what is the science behind these long hours of loading our kids? How can these kids engage in co-curricular activities? Danny. Okay, Danny, my comment is, before I even bring the panel, are they learning from 6:30 to 3:45 in a formal book learning, or are they doing other things? If they are just doing classroom from 6:30 to 3:45, that's a problem. But if they have break, if they have free play, if they have extracurricular laced in, that shouldn't be too bad. I don't know what you think. That's what I think, though. Do you have any experience of schools that do this type of time, 6:30 to 3 p.m.?
Straightforward like this, no. I know there are breaks in between.
6:30 is perhaps when they are setting up for school. But my question to your guest, Bernard, is how, in your experience, you've used AI if you have to help kids with learning disorders or disabilities, persons with disability. How do you use AI to help them learn?
So when we talk about learning disabilities, can you elaborate? We're talking things like some are dyslexic, some are on what
ability to
no, explain it so they'll hear. I see it on here.
So we have the inability to write, the inability to read, and then probably the matphobias.
Yes, or perhaps they are visually impaired, or
so that comes in the sensory disabilities.
Good.
And there's also autism.
Yes.
So those are the sensory ones.
So on the spectrum,
different types of disabilities.
So are there any tools that can help any? And I think I'll take it one by one if you have time, but just an example.
I think one is assistive technology. So those who cannot,
assistive technology.
So there are options for it to read for them, right? Those who cannot
so it will read for you.
Yes.
Okay.
So help you to navigate as well the platform.
Available in Ghana? Affordable?
Well,
assistive technologies.
Yes. And the other one is also, like I mentioned earlier, the experience, right? HDHD, they are considered like color blindness, for instance. So you have to be mindful of the colors that you are using on the platform. So if someone like use red, pink, and all that, like lemon green is too bright for their eyes. So you have to consider colors that are helpful for them. And then you also have options for them to choose. Whether they want the background to be black or white, or whatever color that helps them better. HDHD, they have like very short attention span and all that, so your content has to be broken down. And I mentioned the breaks in between. You can put activities like take a walk, 5 minutes walk, think about this. They come back to sit down and then they continue, because they can't sit and consume the content at once.
Yeah, so this problem you are talking about is a problem that is very personal to me. We do our outreach program, and we've been to communities whereby even speaking English is a problem for these kids. It's a real problem. So I think somewhere last year we worked on a model which is talk to AI. So right from the Meta School app, it's available on the Play Store right now. You can just tap on talk to AI. And what we do is that just talk to the AI. If the AI understands what you're saying, your colleague will understand what you're saying. So you just talk to the AI about any subject. When you are wrong, the AI will correct you.
It's a good AI. Every problem AI can solve it. Messy.
It's not where we find ourselves is that
it's two things. Richard.
Yeah. So Bernard, it's two things. We are facing a problem as a country, not just as a country, but as a whole sub-region. We have two ways. We either solve it the traditional way,
all right,
and it's going to take us another 100 years before we become a middle-income country, or we leapfrog technology for the first time. The AI revolution is happening, and we are seeing models being developed right here in Africa. All this while, it's always been a sport of technology from the West to Africa. Today, AI models are being built right here in Ghana. From scratch.
Yeah.
My companies are at the forefront of this. And what we are saying is that if we sit back, think outside the box, in the next 10 years, we can do the work of the next 100 years, and the world will come to Ghana. How did you do it? We moved our schools into the cloud. We made sure that students, we redefine the definition of a classroom, such that a classroom is not where you are physically, but where you want to be. That means wherever the student is with their tablets, they are able to learn and learn effectively.
But don't forget that schools solve many problems. It's not just learning that we take our kids to school. If my kids are not in school, I can't be here. So it's almost like parents have built this system where the school system is also child support.
Exactly.
So why I understand all this cloud business, if I leave the cloud, my children in the house with the cloud, by the time I come back, you get to be ready from the cloud. You know, they are responsible teachers who check on them to make sure they've tagged in, they've eaten well, and all these things. So whilst I understand the program, I think we need to also appreciate the value of traditional classroom. And I sort of tend to support more what Joanna was talking about, that the teachers themselves need a bit of reorientation into how to make learning more interactive. Let me read another message that has come through. This is from Francis in Accra. Hi, guys. Good morning. I'm Francis Mawunu. The issue your team are raising is true, but the bigger picture is learners are facing many learning difficulties, and such learners are left with less attention given due to their special learning needs. Currently, some of us are trying to bring 21st century knowledge and skills to help, but most school owners are not welcoming it because of the cost in training their teachers, and this is making many learners left out. Francis, you are typing an educational story. I'm reading. I think I'm confused. Do you answer what I've read?
Yeah.
Okay, then answer it.
Okay, so let me pick it from this point. I think apart from teachers some teachers not really being conversant with technology, I think the government too has to come in. Yes, the government has to come in such a way that we see we have places or communities where there are even no structured, you get it, not to talk of something tech.
Yeah.
The structure is not there. Where are the students or the learners staying to even learn? They stay under trees, they stay under these places. And so I think that government should actually put structures in place for these learning communities to actually embrace.
I'll take a short break. When I come back, I'll take closing comments. Stay with us.
This is the City Breakfast Show.
By popular request. It's sensational. It's hilarious.
Enough! You slept with me. I never slept with you. I never had. You untied me. You're lying to the feet, Chan.
Hey! Sakura phone in Trodia.
Join Clemento Suarez, General Intatia, Akofa Ijani, Bill Samoa, Edina Matachi, and more on 28 February, 1st and 2nd March 2025, 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. each day at the National Theatre. Tickets are going for 100 Ghana cedis for students, 200 Ghana cedis for regular, and 300 Ghana cedis for VIP. To purchase tickets, dial *713*33*10#. Supported by AE Cinemax, Enterprise Insurance, UNESCO, McPhillips Foods, and Verna Water. In the chest of a woman returns bigger. bolder, and better. Powered by Africa Arts Network.
First impressions matter. Make yours unforgettable with an impression wherever she goes. And for our gentlemen, there is Style Up perfume and roll-on. Elevate your presence with a confident, masculine fragrance that keeps you dry and fresh all day. Because your fragrance should speak before you do, use Princess Body Mist and roll-on and Style Up perfume and roll-on. Your daily essentials for smelling good from dawn till dusk. Princess and Style Up. Smell good and feel great together. The GC brand. It's all about you. This advert is FDA approved.
A skilled planning, development, and management of education professional, Richard Dodu, who is an AI researcher. He's founder of Meta School AI. And I also have Joanna Egan, a professional licensed educator. So any final thoughts? We're bridging the gap between people in marginalized communities and those of us who are more privileged in learning, and we're using technology to do this. Final thoughts, I'll start with you.
Okay, I think technology is good because we are moving forward, so we can't stay where we are, but then we are in the African context. So if we are using technology, then the content on the technology has to be African-centered. I think this way the children are able to engage and understand whatever is being, communicated to them, and they are also able to think outside the box instead of being fixated on, what is coming from the West and thinking around how to solve problems using that.
Richard.
Yeah, I think the world is changing. The problems that we face as students in the next 10 years, 20 years are not going to face that problems. The way we used to learn then, learning in the future is going to be very different. Sorry. So what I have to say is that let's be open-minded. Let's think outside the box. We at Meta School AI have solved this problem to some extent, and we need a collaborative environment to be able to extend the solution to the world.
And let me end with Joanna Egan. Final thoughts?
Yeah, so I think what my other expert finalists have said are all true, and I think in doing that, government, parents, stakeholders, NGOs all need to come on board to make sure that education policies and then other infrastructures are put in place. Regardless of everything, Bernard, I think we can solve this best when we have conversation with these marginalized people we are talking about. Are we talking about disabled? Are we talking about people with economic constraints? Are we talking about society of teachers? Let's have a conversation with these people, and I think we would have a best solution for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking to 3 educators on Edtech Monday, first edition for 2025, with Ananami, a skilled planning, development, and management education professional, Richard Dodu, AI man, and Joanna Egan, an educator. They do lots of things as well. Program brought to you by Mastercard Foundation in partnership with MEST and the City Breakfast Show. Time for City News at 10, and Ejubi Riafi Akinting. Ejubi Riafi Akinting is joining us with City News at 10. Good morning, Ejubi.